Welcome to Feel the Heat, a 5 Reasons Sports Network Miami Heat podcast. Hosted by Allana Tachauer and Michael Christian. This is your one-stop listen for all things Miami Heat culture, past, present, and future, on and off the court.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 21 of Feel the Heat. Michael's really going to enjoy my monotone voice tonight because I'm coming off of a week of birthday celebrations, including a fun Sunday night. So Michael's going to have to be carrying the energy tonight a little more than usual. Michael, how do you feel?
Just to fill the listeners in here, Allana is currently indoors. It is 10 o'clock on the East Coast. She's wearing sunglasses. She has a hoodie on. She kind of looks like a female version of the Big Lebowski. What that tells you about her Sunday night plans, you do with it what you will. But I just wanted you guys to know what I had to deal with while
what's
recording this.
Hilarious about that is when I was with a D3 men's basketball team that I will not name for no reason at all because this is really easily discoverable, but one assistant coach there a few years ago decided that he was just going to call me a hungover celebrity because that's the vibe I give off, apparently. And then it kind of caught on like wildfire. So now you're here again and the circle is complete.
Yeah, you're like kind of like a Lindsay Lohan, right? That's the first celebrity I think
Someone
of when I think
else used to call me Lilo when I got my license taken away, which I won't get into for legal purposes, but I have also gone through that nickname. To be fair, I am not hungover, though. I'm just a little worn out.
I do a podcast with a criminal. This is exciting.
My record has been expunged, and I won't say anymore. There's nothing that you will find on my record, but it took a pretty penny to make that happen.
I just watched all of the Ocean's movies because I think they're great. So
good.
Doing a podcast with a criminal, this is really exciting. I'm all in now.
I am not a criminal for anyone listening. I feel like this is going to be taken seriously. My record is clean. Don't worry about how it got there. Michael's loving this so far. Actually, this is a good transition because the word record is kind of like the word schedule, right? So let's talk about the Heat's release schedule. How did I do? Scale of 1 to 10.
That was one of the biggest stretches I've ever seen
but
on
I
a
stretched
transition.
it and the rubber band didn't break.
It works. You know what? We could have done? We could have taken the record predictions that people had put out online and then transition that into the schedule. But that's fine. We're here now. We're talking about the schedule. And that schedule, in my opinion, is looking incredibly weak when it comes to like primetime national showing games. Do you have the exact numbers on those?
I believe we have 22 nationally broadcasted contests that don't include Christmas Day. So,
and don't include opening night.
Slap in the face. Correct.
That's just a huge bummer. Like that doesn't make any sense. And I think, obviously Twitter was ablaze as they always are. But they were talking about how, the Heat don't start on opening night. Oh, well, that's what happens when you get swept out of the first round or you lose out of the first round, and a bunch of these teams that either lose in the first round or it just doesn't make any sense for them to really come back with real playoff hopes, get all of these games thrown on there. Look, Ricky listens to every single episode. I know he's not going to like what I have to say, but the Knicks having more of these games than the Miami Heat doesn't really make that much sense. I understand that it's the Knicks and people think that they have like this mysterious presence that's amazing and like, oh, everybody wants to know how the Knicks are doing. No one wants to know how they're doing. Like 75% of New York doesn't want to know how the New York Knicks are doing. Most of them have transitioned to be Brooklyn Nets fans who do they actually play in Brooklyn or are they still in Jersey?
I think they're in Brooklyn.
Good for them. They're actually in the right spot, unlike all the football teams down there. I think the Heat deserve some respect. They had a fantastic offseason. They acquired a lot of players. We know that they're going to be serious contenders. It doesn't make sense that they would be pushed aside like this. Now, what I'm hoping is that maybe some of those later games get flexed, but to me, it's a bit insulting.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are hoping that. I know the last few seasons we picked up some national games along the way. I do think it's a slap in the face. I personally am not surprised, though. feel like the Heat are always overlooked. People love to hate on us, and that's just kind of the identity we've gone with. I will say I'm kind of excited about the fact that we're opening against the Bucks, though.
That's going to be a crazy litmus test right off the bat. It's just like, hey, how do you think it went? Well, you'll know immediately, right? Because the Bucks are going to be riding their high of, we just swept you. So they're going to be coming in high and mighty. They just won the finals. The Heat are going to be coming in with a chip on their shoulder, but also a fairly new team that probably hasn't played much together at all, because yes, they're going to have some preseason games, but not much else. And a part of the lineup isn't really going to have the chance to play, right? With guys like Victor, who definitely won't be back by then. Huge piece needed. Is Omer going to get some playing time already? Or are you going to throw in a guy like Strus right off the bat? One of the people off of two-way contracts, which we will get to later. I'm nervous. I'm nervous about that game.
The question is, will I be at that game? I'm already debating it.
Is it in Milwaukee?
I believe so.
Oh, well, you definitely
If
should.
it's not that, then that's answered for me. But if it's in Milwaukee, I will consider that. I wasn't clearly the best of luck in game one, but maybe I can change that around.
I mean, no one was any luck to the Miami Heat.
To be fair, that's the only game they even really came close to winning. So if you want to look at it glass half full, maybe I didn't do so bad.
No, I'm just going to look at it like it's your fault. You know, it's your fault.
Just like it's your fault that Depot went down then. Yeah.
Nope. I don't know what you're talking about. There is no evidence. Fun fact though, that game is actually in Miami. So
oh, it is. Okay. Well,
yeah.
I like when decisions are made for me. So that made my life a little bit easier.
There you go. Well, you can't go to that game. You can go to a game against the Pacers on October 23rd. Indianapolis can't be too far from Chicago.
It is not, but do I want to find myself in Indiana? If you listen to the Alex Dono show earlier today, the answer is no. Indiana's my least favorite state in the entire country by far.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been to Wyoming?
I have not, but I can't imagine that it could provide less than Indiana does.
Ooh, Rhode Island. Rhode Island's pretty rough. I've been there once. It's like really small and just.
It kind of rolls off the tongue nicely, though. Rhode Island.
Really?
More than Indiana.
I mean, I guess I don't. You're the wordsmith here. I deal with numbers.
Words, not numbers. But speaking of both words and numbers, somehow, what I find interesting is that we're very road heavy in the first few months, which honestly makes me a little bit nervous because I know people say games closer to the playoffs are the ones that matter. To me, the way you start the season very much dictates kind of the flow of the rest of the year. And if we're on the road a lot, that's a lot of traveling. It's a lot of getting used to, especially after a COVID year.
It is going to be pretty tough. Starting on the road is never easy. And especially when you look at the fact that not just is this, I mean, we would have ideally said, hey, this isn't going to be a COVID year of basketball. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it looks like COVID is here to stay. It's back and it's back with a vengeance. Right. So, well, I guess we're never getting that airline as a sponsor. I just feel like it's going to be such a weird time. You're going to worry again about players potentially getting COVID on the road. Is going to make it even more possible. It's going to be tough. However, if they are ever going to go on the road, right, they're going to ever have long stretches on the road. I do agree with the mindset that I'd rather have that be at the beginning of the season than the end. Because at the end, I want them to close it out. I want them to play out strong. And if you can't do that at home before the playoffs aren't going to mean anything because you're not going to go far. So
I just don't like to play catch up or play from behind. And I think my problem is if we fall too far down, it starts getting in our heads, morale gets low, and then it becomes a much harder fight going into those last few months. I think we have like 11 of 15 March games at home, which is great. But if we don't set the pace early on, I just feel like we're going to dig ourselves into a hole and it's going to be harder to get out.
Which I agree with, but only I think other teams are like that. I don't think this team is going to be like that. And the reason why is because this team is still built around basically the same core that it's been built around the past two seasons. You've got Jimmy, you've got Bam. Those are your two leaders. Now, I've got Kyle Lowry, who I'm going to put in the same bucket as them not only as a leader, but kind of the personality is really similar. Like there's a lot of things there that you could see meshing. They like being the underdog. They like having to come from behind. They like having to play catch up. And we've seen that as well in games. When they go into a game against a team that they should lose to, they come up, they step up to the challenge, they win those games. When they play against a team that they should beat, they play like a daisical. They had a tendency to be a little bit, I don't want to say lazy, but they just don't come out with the same urgency. So if the beginning of the season and trying to start out on a strong foot without, some of the guys who may not be healthy yet, if that doesn't fire you up to come out and play strong, then I don't know what else will. And so for my money, I'd rather have it start out this way. I think this is ideal scenario because I want March to be that time where they are locking it down. You know how to play at home. Now win those games at home. You finish that season. Let's say they win 10 of those home games. Win 2 of the road games, you go 12-3 near the end of the season. That's a fantastic record. And that's something I think they should be able to do. I'm all for this. I think it's going to be a great way to lay out the season for them.
Was it this past season though, that we played worse at home than on the road?
I think so.
There was one season where it was very unbalanced. And if that happens again, then that's going to be very interesting. I also am more so worried about guys like Duncan and Tyler, who clearly had a lot of pressure on them going into the trade deadline. And I keep saying this, but I don't think the Heat are done making moves. So I think if that pressure is on again around the trade deadline, and then you have to also be on the road, it's going to kind of face some complications there. We also have 14 back-to-backs, which I can't remember the exact statistic, but is one of the highest number, only second to some other team in like 1993, my memory. But regardless, that does seem like a lot of back-to-back games.
It's especially inopportune for a team that has plenty of guys who have dealt with injuries. You don't want to have to go through that again. This is something that I feel like people don't talk about all that often enough, but Tyler Hero, who I think he should be on this team. I think he has a place here. I think he can be good. If they decided to trade him, that's their prerogative. I support the team. But Tyler's had a bit of an injury history as well. Both of the seasons he's played, he's missed a good amount of time, whether it be a neck thing. I think it was a back thing the year before. A lot of those back-to-backs are going to start eating away at them. And I don't want Jimmy to have to put the whole team on his back again. And that's what I'm excited about, having a guy like Kyle Lowry. I think if you have Kyle, Jimmy, and Bam, you can do a little bit more of what, those big 3 Heat teams did, where every once in a while it's like, okay, maybe we give this guy some extra rest in this game because somebody else should be able to pick up the slack. And I think that's what Kyle brings, right? That ability to rest Jimmy at the whole fourth quarter if we have a sufficient enough lead, right? Like maybe just Kyle and Bam can do it. And then the next night, maybe just Kyle and Jimmy. And then the next night, just Jimmy and Bam. Because there are going to be teams that I think the Heat should blow out and should have comfortable enough margins against, that you give them those rests. And hopefully those are what fill up a lot of those back-to-backs, but I am not quite sure on exactly what that is. But sorry, real quick, to answer your earlier thing about the home and away records. So this past season, the Miami Heat actually had a winning record, both home and away, but both were really close to 500. So at home, they were 21-15. Away, they were 19-17. What is interesting, though, is the year before, the year that the Miami Heat went to the finals and it was a shortened season, they were 29-7 at home. Absolutely dominant. Away, they were 15-22. Really, really rough road schedule. And I'm going to look at that schedule kind of as we go through. But I mean, I don't know which team I want, right? I want the home team from the final season, and I want the away team from last year. And I'm not
I
sure
want a
which
team
one
to
we're gonna
stay
get.
healthy. That is all I'm asking for, because I know every team deals with injuries, and a lot of teams were also obviously dealing with COVID concerns, but we had it rough. I remember, I think I posted a graphic by the end of the season. At one point, we honestly had like 12 to 13 injured guys at the same time, or injured and or COVID health protocols. And that's crazy. So if we can stay healthy, I will take whatever schedule as long as we're in tip top shape.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it sucks. That's just the most important thing with this team right now, because we all know if this team is healthy, right? If they have all the pieces in place, this team can go places. We've seen them go places. And I don't think I'm not saying that Kyle Lowry is going to match exactly what Goran brought, because Goran did bring a lot of points, like a really high amount of points that were kind of out there. But overall, right, if you include defense and the playmaking and all that stuff, Kyle brings much more to the team than Goran Dragic did. And so for that reason, I don't see why they can't have a repeat performance on their end of what happened the year that Miami Heat went to the finals. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make it back to the finals, because the rest of the NBA is different. The Bucks are improved. The Nets matter, right? They didn't then. You've got teams in the West that are kind of retooling and reshaping as well. And I understand that's not really a concern until the finals, but because Miami often has those West like coast trips where it's like 6 or 7 games in a row, all on the West Coast, that's going to be crucial for them. They really have to come away with a good amount of wins from those. So that's where it matters. I think this team can have a repeat performance on their end, but if they're not healthy, I mean, we know the ages of a lot of these guys, you can kiss the whole season goodbye. One injury to either, in my opinion, Kyle, Jimmy, or Bam that lasts more than 15 games, I think you're going to have a really tough time, because you're going to have to start playing from behind a lot, and you're probably going to end up somewhere between the 5 and 7 seed.
To your point too, and this is not something I'm saying lightly, because you know how I feel about Goran, but Goran wasn't really able to do back-to-backs. Goran also lost a lot of his explosiveness, I think mostly due to the fact that he had that back injury and had reoccurring issues from it. So Kyle is definitely not a spring chicken. And I don't think that he should be required to carry, you know, a huge offensive and defensive load night in and night out. But I do feel a little bit more confident having him out there in a back-to-back situation than I did Goran. You know, here's hoping that guys like Duncan are able to remain as healthy, because he has been incredible. He had a stomach issue that one game, and aside from that, I can't remember anything else happening. So, you know, here's to that luck at least continuing, because when he's shooting lights out, someone else can kind of take a little bit of a backseat.
I called it out last year. I was shocked when I saw it. He didn't miss any games. He didn't miss any games due to injury the season that he went to the finals. He didn't miss any games last year, even with everything that was going on. Duncan Robinson is just this health maniac.
Picture of health.
I mean, hey, good for him. And it's not like, here's the thing. I know he's a 3-point shooter, but it's not like he just stands on the 3-point line and just kind of waits for things to happen.
He's running around.
He runs the entire game. I'm not saying he runs more than the rest of the team, because I think they do a bit more of it on the defensive end, but he runs probably, I don't know, I'd say maybe about 90% of what Jimmy runs. And Jimmy gets exhausted, right? So look, to Duncan Robinson, thank you for being this just amazing symbol of health. Please continue to be so, because if you're stretching the floor, it should open it up for somebody to get something going. I don't know who exactly, right? Maybe Markieff has a comeback season from the 3-point line. Maybe PJ Tucker finds his corner groove, right? Maybe something about Ethan thinking he's worth a first-round pick was really going to pick him up, but I don't know what it's going to be. I'm just glad Duncan's going to be out there doing it.
Speaking of health, I'm going to bring up a slightly controversial topic, because we can't not. The COVID guidelines that the Heat have put in place about all staff having to be vaccinated, that's a pretty big deal. That's pretty big stuff. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I say good for them. And I hope that the rest of the league follows suit.
I think it's a good move on their part. I understand both sides of the argument, right? It's tough. It is tough to require things of people, right? It's tough to agree with anyone that says, I'm requiring this of you. You have to go do it. If you don't do it, you can't work here, right? You're going to lose your job. In a situation like this, though, I just don't think you can risk it. I don't think you can put yourself, those around you, and the team at risk. And with an organization like the Heat, whose number one priority is winning and doing that by any means necessary, they need to be in the best possible standing to do it. And the only way to be in that best possible standing is to make sure that everyone in the facility is vaccinated. Because if they're all vaccinated, you've now taken the chance of having a COVID outbreak in that locker room to slim to none. It's still possible for them to get it. And I understand a lot of people are going to say that, oh, well, there's plenty of people who have the vaccine that still get COVID. But if they get it, number one, very likely their symptoms are little to none. It's hard for them to transmit it to other people. And it doesn't force you to go into a hospital where you're going to be taking up the bed and you're going to be on life support or you're in the ICU or something. So I agree with what the Heat are doing. The NFL tried to push teams to do that, kind of. I don't know how much you know about that, but the NFL basically put a rule in place where it was, if there is a COVID outbreak in your locker room, right, among unvaccinated players, your team forfeits the game for that week. Last year, they were rescheduling them and pushing them and sending those players home and kind of doing all this stuff. Now, if it happens, you've just postponed the game. They forfeited. It's a loss for you. The other team gets a win. That came up as a hot topic. And I think part of it is the Heat are trying to get ahead of it, right? They're like, if the NBA puts this in place, we want to make sure we're in the best spot. I'm all for it. I think people should get the vaccine. If you really don't want to, please just wear a mask when you go out, right? At all times, just try to keep yourself another safe. But other than that, if you can get the vaccine, it's so readily available. Go get it. The Heat are doing it. Follow their suit.
Then my next question is if they're going to require anything of fans, because I know some arenas and some teams already started requiring a vaccination card or at least proof of a negative test. So I'm curious to see what happens there, because obviously the first step is their own people, but fans are also a concern, especially if they're back to full capacity at the arena.
I think, didn't they say that they're going to require a mask of everyone regardless of vaccination status? Isn't that what they came out with?
I don't know. I don't think I saw that. I just know that I think was it the Nets or the Knicks or both, maybe last season, started requiring vaccine cards, I think, towards the end of the season.
I believe so. I mean, I think it makes it safer for everybody in there.
Mm-hmm.
I have my vaccine card. I lost my first one, right? So I got my first shot. No, timeout. No. I got my first shot. I had the card. I left it here at the house. I went to get my second shot and I didn't bring my card. So they just had to like write up.
I took a picture of mine because I don't trust that I'm not going to not that I'm going to throw it away, but I mean, mine's not laminated or anything. So I feel like over time it's going to fade or something. So I just took a photo to be safe.
Well, I mean, do you own a laminating machine? Is it called a laminator?
Why would I have a laminator? Do I look like a printing press over here?
A printing press? Wow, you went straight back to the dark ages. You could have said like a Kinko's or like a Staples. You said printing press.
Well, I mean, I'm a writer, so.
I mean, I don't know. Some people like laminating things to make them official.
What else would I laminate?
Any documents that you get that you're very proud of, like some sort of degree or a.
I don't even know where any of my diplomas are. None of them.
So then what you're telling me is you don't actually have any.
The world may never know.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, you know what? I'm proud of you. You speak like someone very educated for someone with no degrees.
You have to know that Alan and Alessandra would never let that fly. If you don't believe me, believe in them and believe that they're Euro, and no child of theirs would be walking around without a master's degree. It didn't matter what I wanted. That was happening.
You didn't even say high school. You didn't even say a 4-year bachelor's. You went straight to master's. You're like,
because it's what I got.
Wow. Big shot over here. Congratulations.
Not that I have anything to prove for it. One day I'll find them though.
If you don't know where they are, they don't exist and you don't have a master's.
Move us to the next topic, Michael.
What else do we have to talk about? Ooh, fun times. We're talking about. Now you put it as Heat Twitter. I see where it's Heat Twitter. I'll see what's just.
Well, it was all the buzz on Heat Twitter.
It was all the buzz and all
that
buzz.
Party was popping over this.
They were. I mean, they pop about a lot of things.
That's true. It's always popping in that pool.
Yeah, this was one of them. We're talking about Deaky. Deaky, if you don't know who Deaky is, that's okay. I found out kind of late myself too. We're talking about Jarreau. I think that's how you pronounce his last name.
Jarreau.
Why do you do that?
Do we know where Deaky came from, the nickname?
I don't know. I just saw that the internet called him that, so I called him that. I didn't want to look.
No, I hear you. It's just like, people didn't know Bam's origin, and then it came out of the story. I just didn't know if I missed the Deaky origin story.
Oh man, it's probably out there somewhere. And you know where it is? Do you know where the story is? That story is in Indiana. Party? That story is in Indiana, your favorite place in the whole wide world. Because Deaky has signed a two-way contract. It was a two-way, right? He signed
I
a
believe
two-way
so.
contract with the Indiana Pacers. Now, you were lovely enough to bring up his stats. Thank you very much for that. I shouldn't have said that. I should have just read them and acted like I found them. He averaged 11.6 points, 6.6 rebounds, and 5.8 assists with 1.4 steals. That was during Summer League.
Correct.
And he shot 47% with 36% from three. Do you think, Señorita Tachauer, do you think that they really missed out on Deke, that they should have given him the two-way contract?
I do, with the caveat of if we end up with Marcus Garrett, I will be okay with it. I think the timing was interesting. I'm not sure if the Heat really knew what he was up to, because I believe the Heat told him they were interested, but then in the meantime, he ended up with the Pacers. So I'm not sure if he just didn't want to wait or what was going on. But
okay, the timing was kind of weird with the whole Deke thing. However, I'm not really fully convinced the Heat were super wanting Jarreau. Not that he's not a good player, because I think he was doing great in Summer League. I just think, and a lot of people talked about this, I felt like the Heat wanted a little bit more variety with their two-way contracts, because Marcus Garrett, to me, is the number one two-way contract option
absolutely
for the Miami Heat. I think Marcus Garrett played fantastic. His defense just screams Heat culture. There was so many times where he would steal the ball from the same guy on like 3 plays in a row. And you know that player is really thinking, okay, let me not cause a turnover this time. And he's still getting the ball. Garrett, to me, is perfect fit. But Garrett and Jarreau are a bit similar. Now, Jarreau is a bit more gifted offensively, at least from what we saw in Summer League. I think he can run the team a little bit more from a point guard perspective, but he would never really be doing that with the Heat in Miami when he played in the NBA. I think they'd let other people run the show. And personally, I'd rather have Gabe Vincent play a point guard role before Jarreau. So because of that, I'm okay with letting Jarreau walk. I think he would have been a good fit. I would have been happy giving him and Garrett the two-way contracts. But because I feel like, and a lot of other people have said this, because I feel like they wanted a bit more variety, maybe a Garrett and a Micah Potter. What did I say? A Micah Potter.
Are you just against Harry Potter? Is that what just happened here?
A Potter. No, Micah
You're
Potter.
a wizard, Harry.
Look at you. Have you seen those movies?
So I saw the first 2, and then the third one I went in theaters and I fell asleep, and then I gave up. So I never fully saw that. One of the
best ones.
How many are there? 6 or 7?
I think it's 8
movies.
There's 8 movies because there's
wow.
7 books, and the
I
7th
read all
book
the
got
books.
split in 2.
Right. I did read all the books, and then the movies, the third one I was dead ass asleep.
Dang, that's
I think
honestly
20
one of my
minutes
favorite
in.
ones because of Sirius. Sirius was great in that film.
Should I go back and watch them? I feel like I should.
Yeah, just do a whole tweet thread about it. Those work every once in a while on the internet. Like somebody rewatches something that other people saw.
Are you
and
saying
like,
that I need material for Twitter?
Yes,
that's why
definitely.
I'd rewatch them.
Yeah, it is me reading your timeline is like you watching Harry Potter 3.
Yeah, what don't you like on my timeline recently?
You know, it's just like after about 5 tweets, I usually kind of fall asleep a bit.
I think you should turn on notifications. I think you're really missing out.
I definitely don't have notifications on, and I follow enough people that honestly sometimes I just get bored and I just hit home and I let it scroll all the way to the top.
You don't Twitter, right?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, I know that. And I'm okay with it. It's who I am. And who I am is a Miami Heat fan, a fan of a team that is now without Deke Jarreau. Now, with
Will
him
they
not
land
signing,
Garrett, though?
Oh, listen, if they let him walk and they don't sign Garrett, I'm going to be furious. Absolutely furious. That is, like I said, that is the number one guy, in my opinion, that they need to focus on getting off of that summer league team. No one else to me is even close to how I feel about Marcus Garrett. I think they will get him because I don't think the Heat are dumb enough to let him walk. I'm assuming you agree with that.
Oh, absolutely. And I know, I think the only holdup right now is that he changed agents. So for anyone panicking, that is, I think, just a logistical thing that they need to work through.
And the Heat are going to find a way to get it done. I mean, we saw what happened with Omer. and everybody was freaking out. Oh my gosh, someone else is gonna sign Yurtseven. We're gonna lose him. Oh no! And the Heat signed him, and everything was fine.
Who's that of an impression of specifically, or is that all of just Heat Twitter?
That was just everyone on the internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, on the whole wide world
the entire internet. Yeah, those I'm talking about those TikTok kids and the people that do Instagram reels, right? And the people that do Facebook.
So you don't have a
stories.
TikTok then?
No, I definitely don't.
I could see you doing like comedy TikTok videos.
I don't think I could. I'm not sure I'm that creative for
I think
that
you're
much
very
content.
funny, though.
Yeah, but it's about reactionary in the moment, like like a Chandler from Friends kind of thing. Like somebody says something and I had a sarcastic remark.
I had a big crush on Chandler back in the day.
This is awkward.
Why is it awkward?
I mean,
you consider yourself a Chandler?
I have modeled my life after 3 sitcom characters. Chandler from Friends.
Okay.
Schmidt from New Girl. Jake Peralta from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Okay.
My entire life.
One of those. So
you've never seen New Girl?
I mean, I know what it is, but I've never watched it.
Oh, that show's so good. But you don't like laughing. Like you don't like comedy shows.
I don't. Like I'm binging ER now and I cry at every episode and it just feels so right,
How can you want to cry at television?
Probably because I don't cry anywhere else in my life or very rarely. So it like needs to come out a different way.
Whoa, talk about a great life over there. Do you want to transition us to our last set of topics, or do we want to keep talking TV?
I do, in fact, but I have no good transition here unless CJ McCollum is also a fan of crying at TV shows. I will maybe try and ask
He
him.
once guest starred on a sitcom. That sitcom is to be determined. I will Google it and find it and let
did
you
he
know
really?
later. I have no idea. I made that up.
Oh, okay. I could see him actually being an okay actor, though.
You think so?
Doesn't everyone say that he looks like Steve Urkel? Isn't that the joke?
I've never seen that, but I believe it. The internet does.
Okay,
wild
I'm pretty
things.
sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is the comparison. So I should have gone with that. Regardless, did you see what he said about our friend, the Chicago boy, Leo Kendrick Nunn?
was a lot of words in there, and I'm trying to make sure I caught everything that you said. No, I did not see what CJ McCollum said. I saw something pop up and then I just didn't click it.
You don't like to read. That's right.
Well, it's also because I don't care, because it's CJ McCollum talking about, right? CJ McCollum, the Portland Trailblazer.
I like
talking about
CJ
Kendrick
though.
Nunn, the Los Angeles Laker, and about how
that's right. Future champ Kendrick
Nunn.
Nunn.
Was the title. He thinks the Heat did Kendrick dirty, and I'm like, I don't think so, so I didn't click it.
You don't think so?
No, definitely not. But maybe his quote will change my mind.
No, he basically, and this was kind of a paraphrase, he basically said he was going to be a free agent. They waited until the money dried up. So what about the manipulation that goes into some of these situations where teams are waiting for the market to dry up before the release of players' rights? I am not going to lie. I think a lot of us were kind of surprised as to how that went down. I'm not necessarily saying that the Heat had some plan in place to screw him over. I actually really don't think that was the case. And judging by kind of the fact that, let's be honest, Kendrick ended up on the Lakers, but also his thank you to the Heat made it seem like they parted ways on a good note. However, with that said, the timing was weird. And I do think that somewhere down the line, there might need to be a rule in place here and there with these kind of situations, because players aren't really being protected as well as they could be.
You see, and this is where I'm going to push back. So
you push back? No way.
Shut up. Okay, I've already talked about the NFL. I'm going to talk about the NFL some more.
The
NFL does not have guaranteed contracts. It doesn't guarantee the entirety of the contract, right? You can sign a contract that is 4 years, $84 million, and $40 million of that is guaranteed. If after year 2, they cut you, they make sure to pay you $40 million. And then that other $44 million that you quote unquote signed for is gone. You don't get that. That's not your money. That's just how it is.
They talked about this on Basketball Wives, actually.
I like how that's what.
See, I learned things from TV, from trash TV.
They actually also talked about this on the I Am Athlete podcast, which is one of my favorite podcasts. It's really good if people want to check that out. But the NBA contracts are all guaranteed, not two-way contracts, right? Two-way contracts aren't completely guaranteed, but the rest of the NBA contracts are, right? Whatever you sign for, that's the money you go and make. And there are incentives and bonuses and things on top of that that you can go and earn. But what you signed for, you go and get that money. To me, this is a situation where everybody acts selfishly and in their own interest.
Of course.
And that's just how it is. For example, if a team signs a player to a big deal, and in one of the years, that player has a player option to opt back in for $30 million, but the market dictates that he can now get $38 to $40 million, he's probably going to opt out and go get that $40 million deal, right? It's a big gamble. What's better for the team? What's better for the team is if that player just opts in and stays at the 30 million, right? Then they can go use that money on someone else. But the player wants to make sure that they have enough money. So this is just a situation of, I think the Heat were holding on to Kendrick to say, okay, number one, maybe we could use him in a trade piece, right? So we want to make sure he doesn't go anywhere. And number two, let's wait to see what happens with Oladipo, right? Maybe if Oladipo says, no, I'm going to go somewhere else for more money, then they say, okay, let's bring back Kendrick Nunn. We need somebody else. But because Oladipo said, hey, I'm going to come back for the minimum, they then decide, you know what? We're good. We don't need Kendrick anymore. Because I think we found out about the Depot contract after they had already unrestricted Kendrick, but they might have already had an agreement in place. So I don't know. I don't think they did Kendrick dirty. I think if they had, we would have heard a lot more about it. And
no, I think so too. But the timing was weird. And the other thing is, I don't really remember, at least in recent history, anything similar happening with the Heat. And I think that might be why a lot of us were thrown off, because I don't usually things like this have not occurred within the organization. And again, maybe it's just my bad memory, or I haven't really been paying attention to the kind of details around these contracts. But I know that I think regardless of how you felt about it, people were pretty surprised.
People were surprised. The Heat don't get themselves into these situations thanks to one Mr. Andy Ellisberg, who is one of the greatest like cap navigators that exist in the entire league. He knows how to make sure that they don't need to do these things, but I think they had to do this because of all of the uncertainty. Kyle Lowry, sure, I think they were pretty confident about that, and the NBA seems to think they were incredibly confident about that way before they should have been. But
I don't know what everybody you're talking about. What is tampering?
Everybody else, they weren't sure, right? This isn't like the year with LeBron where they cleared house to bet on this one thing, and they had some backup plans, but that's what they were going for. And then they knew when they were going for Gordon Hayward, and they knew when they were going for Kevin Durant, which never seemed likely, but man, that would have been great. I just think this was a very uncertain time for them. With everything that was going on in the NBA, they wanted to have some contingencies in place. And I think, Kendrick got kind of held up as a contingency. Now, let's be honest, he is in a great situation. Could he have gotten more money? Sure, but
better than he could have done. I mean, I think in the beginning, the initial report said that he could make up to 15 a year, and I think he went 2 for 10, but he's likely walking away with a ring unless they move him before the end of the season. You can shake your head all you want. They're going to be in that finals at the very least.
I think they'll make the finals. I don't think they'll win. I think
regardless, he is in a better place. I'm happy for him. But it was interesting. I think that CJ spoke up about that. I think a lot of people had a similar reaction to you, where they kind of were like, why are you even bringing this up? But it was an interesting point to kind of see. And I don't hate the fact that he commented on it.
I mean, he has a right to do whatever he wants. I don't mind. And even if the Heat did act selfishly in that scenario, which they very much likely did, they have a right to do so. And the players have a right to act selfishly as well, right?
It is a business at the end of the day.
Exactly. It is a business. And there comes a point in time where it's like, okay, this culture and we're family, and we want to make sure that, you get the best. But for example, if there was a team option and the player wasn't playing well, they're not going to pick it up. And if they do pick it up, it might be just to trade him, right? Just like the players have rights, the teams have rights. I think the NBA is one of those situations where it's as balanced as it can be, if not maybe even slightly favoring the players. So to me, it's just, I just find it curious that CJ was observing that situation.
Well, it's as the president. It wasn't just as a player. He took over Chris Paul's job.
Oh,
I think that's what
did?
a lot of people, I think that's what a lot of people miss. People thought he was just saying it out of nowhere. He was saying it from a standpoint of walking into Chris Paul's old job. I can't remember what his exact title is. Is it president of the Basketball Players Association?
Yeah, would it be the NBPA?
I think so. So that
be.
he was speaking out as that, not as just a random player.
I mean, Chris Paul probably walked out of that role to step back into another $300 million contract over 3 years at the age of
good for
97. That you see, that's one, right? Like, great for him. He opted out of his contract to get, a bit more money, to get a different structure of money for what he wanted. Get that bag.
We would both do it.
Yeah. Man, I'd sign $1 million contract just to sit on the bench.
Heartbeat.
Listen,
absolutely.
Just to sit there. I would actually even pay them a certain amount of money just to sit on the end of the bench and listen to all the conversations.
Okay, I'm not going that far, but that's good to know that that's where you're. Absolutely not. I'm not going to be paying anyone to have me there.
Like I'd pay $10,000 to like be with the team for a year. Like that's I fly with them. I like go to all the meetings. Like I'm basically
because I have services I could offer. I can do their social media. I'm a great personal assistant. So there's something I could offer in exchange.
I just have a fun time observing and acting like I'm part of the team. I could practice with Udonis Haslem, try to box him out, get totally wrecked. Sounds like a great time. Sounds super fun. I think you would
need a doctor on hand at all times.
Well, if there were a doctor I wanted to go to, it would be one of the doctors on the Miami Heat, or maybe one of the trainers on the Miami Heat to kind of help with the rehab. Speaking of those trainers, that's a transition. Paul Pogba. Now, Allana, we talked about him for a little bit and you didn't know who he was. And I want to see if you remember any of what was said.
I do remember. He is a soccer player on the French team. Or no, on Manchester United, correct?
He does play for Manchester United.
But is he French?
Also of French nationality.
Okay, great. So I did good. 2 out of 2.
He just recently won the World Cup.
Oh, congratulations.
If I'm remembering that correct. Not recently, but just the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Paul Pogba actually trained with some of the Miami Heat staff when he was on, and I want to quote this accurately, when he was on holiday, right? Because that's what they say over there. That's very weird to me, on holiday. But hey, say whatever you got to say. When he was on vacation in Miami, he trained with the Miami Heat staff. And the reports are that Paul Pogba is in the best shape of his life.
World-class shape. Only way to do it for Riley.
Because of the training he did with the Miami Heat. Partially because of that. I'm sure he did other things, but that was a big part of it. We have a big track record on the Heat and their training, right? The regimen to make sure people get into the shape of their lives. What do you think about it? What do you think about it now being shown with a soccer player like Paul Pogba?
No, I think that's great. I think it shows it transcends any sport and it's not just a basketball thing. They definitely know what they're doing and they are known for that for a reason. I think their trainers and just the player development staff is literally bar none. So I think that's awesome. And I think that the fact that it's being talked about is awesome too, because it could have just been something that kind of happened, behind the scenes and gone about their merry way. But the fact that is being reported I think it's pretty cool. And it just speaks to the rest of not only the league, but just the other sports across the nation, just kind of knowing what the Miami Heat is all about.
True. Would you subscribe to like a Miami Heat workout plan?
Absolutely. Oh my God. Absolutely. Sign me right up. So that you would
pay for?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. You see, so then I'm not that far off. I'd be training with the team too.
But you want to pay them to hang out with them. That is completely different. I'm trying to get in the best shape of my life.
Here's the idea, right?
I'm trying to eat all the birthday cake I can and drink all the rosé that I want without it doing anything.
Riley won't invite you to either of those things.
Riley would have loved the restaurant I went to last night. Let me tell you, it had class written all over it. And the rosé there, we finished that bottle off clean.
Good for you. Is that why you're still wearing those sunglasses? Did you finish
the bottle off
yourself?
I want everyone to know that Michael is lying. There are no sunglasses on my face right now.
Wow, I can't believe you just took off the sunglasses. This is sad. This is really sad. Like, I expected more from you. But to call someone out for lying, just welcome to the off season, folks. There's no more summer league to talk about. Preseason isn't even here yet.
I struggled to put a rundown together, but we did it. So claps for us and claps for our listeners for getting through this episode.
Yeah, this was a different one for sure.
For sure. But I mean, you only have a few more weeks of this, and enjoy. We will have some live streams coming your way as well, which are always fun. Maybe we'll bring on some guests. Who knows what will happen?
Preseason starts October 4. So we have about a month and a half till we get some basketball that we can talk about again.
We're a creative duo. We can figure something out.
Oh, we definitely will. We've got some lists we want to talk about, right? Like we want to do a tier list of all the Heat teams from when Allana became a fan, which was fairly recently. So it won't be too many teams, but we'll figure it out. Right. Well, maybe we could do that one live, or we could do that one on here. Just like a tier list, right? You take like the S, A, B, C, D, E, D, F, and then, you can figure it out. What do you think is the best team in the last 11 years?
There is going to be some prep work that goes into this, but I'm on board.
We are going to need some prep work. That might even involve comparing LeBron James' historic seasons to a certain quote unquote GOAT who is probably not the GOAT in my opinion.
I think
and
I'm
Josiah's
need some
opinion.
Wade Sellers wine for this. So Wade Sellers, get at us. I will gladly consume some while making these lists and making this argument against you. But I think for now, that is all tonight. Any closing words, Michael?
Nope. Just Allana's in sunglasses and a hoodie. Book it.
Good night, y'all.
Thanks for listening to Feel the Heat. Can't get enough of your hosts? Follow Allana at Allana Tachauer, Tachauer, and Michael at Michael, 5 RSN on Twitter and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe.